what today we're doing is essentially just going out and riding through an important wildlife corridor. It's a major area for grizzly bear, elk, probably to an extent wolves. There's no telling what we may or may not see, but there's a lot of wildlife sign up there, and I'll try to point out what I'm seeing or have seen in the area as we go. Here in the High Divide, which is the area I'm responsible for, extends from here in the Madison Range on the west side of Yellowstone all the way into central Idaho, and basically from the I-90 corridor down to the Snake River Plain in Idaho. And within that area, we identified 31 corridors. This whole area along here on the Madison Range and in the Madison Valley were two of the really important ones. And with all of the significant wildlife values that go along with that, if everything from waterfowl to elk and wolves and grizzly bears and wolverine, there's probably as great a variety of wildlife that we're concerned about in terms of long-range landscape scale movements here as anywhere in Montana. The things that people are looking for would be basically just, what do you see? What's the wildlife use that you see? What's the conditions that are out there? What strikes you as an indicator of the quality of that corridor? Do you see a lot of the development around? Are there roads there? Or is it in generally pretty good shape? And if that's the case, what's the vegetation like? Are you seeing a lot of dead timber? Is it a result of a fire? Is it a result of insects? Or maybe you don't know, but at least you can just document that that's the case. When I'm out like this, basically I'm always making a little list in my head as to what I'm seeing, and it's up to you as to how you do that, and what you document. The main thing is just that we just kind of want to have an idea of what it is that you would see, how you would feel about things when you went through this area.
I think the most important thing we learned on the trip was how important land like that is for wildlife to be viable. They have to have safe corridors where they can move between their winter and their summer lands, as well as grow their population. If there's too many of them in an area, they need to have a place they can go to that's safe. If there's an area that is getting degraded, either naturally or from human development, they need to have a way to safely get to another area as well. So without these corridors, they're stuck.
As we get on up around the hill here, we're going to drop down into more of the timber. You'll start to see a lot more elk sign. There's some places up here where the bears have been working. There was a bear sighted right over here in this timber stand just 2 days ago. Guys typically were riding up that drainage and basically just kind of came face to face with him. And that's the other thing, that when you get into these areas that you've got this lush vegetation, the calving areas, the bears follow them around.
This was a fantastic day, and for someone who is uneducated about the importance of wildlife corridors, and to go in there with people who have educated eyes and could really answer every question you can think of. And I really thought of every question I could think of too. And there's little things you learn, like how to look for the rocks that the bears have turned over, but you also learn the extent of movement is so much greater than I had fully really understood. I mean, you think of animals like wolverines or whatever, lynx as being sort of sedentary, but not at all. I mean, there's a sense of motion and interplay and interlocking. So that was one thing. And then, of course, you see how fragile it all is and can be. It's a dynamic environment, and it's changing all the time. And so the whole system is so interestingly interlocked. And I mean, we all have a sense of that, but to be with people who really deeply understand it and appreciate it was great.
I'm not sure that before this ride that I would have really recognized the area as a corridor. I sometimes think of animals going into ranches to spend the dead of winter, so they have a place to eat and can forage without all that snow. But I hadn't thought of it as being a way for them to go from one range to another, like the Graveleys to the Madison. I've learned a lot on the ride about how there are organizations, American Wildlands in particular, that is their goal. And that is their major project is to protect those corridors. And I'm very, very much for that.
It wasn't any one thing you sort of say, wow, that was really amazing. It was the sense of it all kind of fitting together in the big jigsaw puzzle. And so I thought that was what was neat. It's exceedingly beautiful. I mean, it was amazing. I mean, I've done a number of rides in my life. That was by far the most beautiful ride I've ever been on.